Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back for those who were here earlier. And welcome if you did not come to the morning or the earlier session one. Welcome, welcome. Hello, hello. Welcome. Okay, I am going to put in the chat the slide deck so you can follow along if you wish. The recording is already started. You saw that when you came in. And I am going to share my screen. I believe everyone here is a veteran office hour person, but if you are not, just a quick recap. We do ask everyone to respectfully keep themselves on mute, unless, of course, you're having an artifact reviewed. Please come off. We'll have a nice discussion. Before I get into each artifact, I do unpack the criteria and specifically what the evaluation team is looking for in the artifact. It has nothing to do with the artifact I'm reviewing. It is just for everybody so that we're all on the same page when we're looking, reviewing, and reflecting. Next, I cannot ethically tell you, yes, 100% you're going to meet this. It does have to go through the official evaluation. However, since I have a direct line of sight into the evaluation team and train them myself, I pretty much know what they're going to say for the most part. I will tell you either you're on the right track, give you some additional feedback, or you might hear me say, let me bring you over this way. And it's my nice way of saying that maybe your definition and the road you're going down in your artifact is not necessarily what the criteria is looking for, and we'll have those conversations. But it's a learning experience for all, even if you don't have an artifact being reviewed this evening. So we're going to get started because I know if you are within the States, it's either late on the East Coast, like myself, or getting later, or it's bright and early in the morning and maybe you're getting ready to start your day. So Lauren, how are you doing today, Lauren?
Good.
Good. And I just have to say this real quick. My apologies, Lauren. Cami, love your background. Love the background. So awesome. Lauren, you would like to take us with criteria, or start us with criteria 21, which is under the facilitator standard. Any specific thing you would like me to focus on, or just general feedback?
Just general feedback. I know my contextualization is too long, so just tell me where I should break it up.
I love it. Now everyone's like, okay, tell me where I should start and end. Not too long. I mean, it is definitely wonderful, but yes, like, and this is what I've said earlier in the earlier recording is contextualization should be short and sweet. Just who your learners are and a little, think of it like a, you know, in the newspaper, the old versions of the newspaper where you'd open them on a Sunday, but the newspaper where it would give you like 3 sentences. It was like a teaser text and it said, go to page 127. And then you'd like frantically go because you're really interested. That's kind of your contextualization, just kind of something short and sweet. So happy to, yes, this morning, 2 to 3 sentences exactly. Somebody was listening, right? I know you all are. I'm just joking. Okay. So let's unpack criteria 21 before we get into this artifact. So criteria 21 is under the facilitator standard. And if you recall the facilitator standard, all of the criteria, all of the indicators are all about you moving away from being that person right there delivering all the information and allowing your learners to take ownership and kind of work autonomously. So with criteria 21, it's specifically around using the design thinking or the computational thinking process. And it's really taking us through the evaluation team through in your artifact, each one of those principles, each one of those steps of either the design thinking process or the computational thinking process and what your learners did throughout that. Now, we do recognize that maybe you didn't specifically identify either one of these processes with your learners. You had them organically go through it, but in the artifact, we're looking for you to identify. So for example, with Lauren, I just see here, it's design thinking. What were your learners doing through empathizing, defining, ideating, prototyping, and really telling us that story? The last piece on that is to ensure that your learner somewhere along the lines there was using educational technology, even if it's just in the final product or maybe a way that they were empathizing, defining, and ideating, they were using some type of educational technology. Okay, this is just an additional surface piece. especially around design thinking. The traditional design thinking is very similar to what Lauren has here: empathizing, defining, ideating, prototyping, testing, and then usually it's a feedback around again. Sometimes there are design processes out there that use different wording, and that's perfectly fine. You can use that. Just make sure that with the evaluation team, you kind of equate it a little bit to that traditional design thinking. And so if they use different words for empathizing and defining, just kind of saying, okay, this is equal to, or this is similar to this step in the design, in the traditional design thinking. Okay, let's jump in. In one class you teach, students create a digital library. To get started, you ask students to use design thinking. They use the 5 stages of design thinking to create the digital library and revise it so that it meets the needs of their audience. I would say, Lauren, that's perfect for your contextualization. If you have slides in your artifact that then kind of like restate all this, then you can have the further context, but right in your alignment map, just this first paragraph is perfect. So for the digital library project, the students complete the design thinking process as follows. And then identifying the audience, stating your audience's needs, identify ways your digital library can meet, start creating your digital library, ask members of the audience to review, get feedback, and change based on that feedback. Okay, excellent. So we're going to go right into your artifact. By the way, I don't usually wear, I feel so self-conscious because these are my like fun, not when I'm on meeting glasses, but I broke my black ones. And so now I've got like this crazy color and I just see myself with these like pink, peachish, and I'm like, no, it's unprofessional. So for slides 4 through 6. Okay, here's the assignment description for the digital library assignment. Okay, should broad topic. Okay. This project will be using this during the first 3 weeks class. Okay, define. Nice. Each step in the assignment description includes what assignment is associated with a further step, further information. Okay, great. Here's an example of an assignment associated with the you know what I'm talking about, stage of the design process. Here's an example of the digital library. Okay, really, really, really nice start. Very, very nice start. This right here, this slide right here is nice because it outlines what you gave to your learners to do this. What I would suggest here is it seems like this is additional guidance. Is this correct that you gave your learners for each of the phases or each of the principles?
Yeah, so like for the emphasize stage where they had to think about their audience and do that research to what they would need, that was the assignment that they turned in that aligned with that.
Okay, so these were your directions that
Yes.
okay. I would highly suggest, makes a really strong artifact, to show this for all of the other ones. If you did any of expansion on that for them,
Okay.
if you did, if you didn't, please don't make it if you didn't, but if you did, it would really, it shows that like deeper connection for each one of those.
Okay.
I would definitely show that. And then for this, if you want to show, I would show a little bit more then of this, because this, if you're going to show the student examples, which is really nice, I would show a little bit more. And or can back up. If you captured, and it seems like this might have been in a digital learning environment, if you captured any submissions throughout this process, like if your learners were submitting their ideation or their prototyping or something, even capturing that, if it is in your learning management system, after you show each one of these steps, and you can say, and this is, you know, they handed this along the way, or this is how they captured audience feedback, things like almost kind of a little bit more of what they were doing throughout that process. Does that make sense?
It does. With the final project, it's going to be hard because they do turn in an initial and like they get feedback, but then they just keep going. So I only really have the final
drafty.
Yeah, like I mean, they give a draft, but I don't have that anymore because then they work on it.
I got you. You know what? Even so, the final project, that's perfectly fine. And you can say that there's iterations going on, even if it's the final that you show, like through the whole testing phase. These are some of the examples, but really kind of showing if you have So I guess I'm going to back up. Is what you're saying that final is the one that's always revised, so you don't have necessarily the steps throughout? Okay.
Yes, because I mean, they get feedback directly on what they did, and then they just continue revising it so that the final is what they turn in, but it's been revised multiple times.
Then that is no problem. I would then just suggest doing this a little bit more, expanding each one of these principles, 100%.
Okay.
Yep. And then I would say
Okay.
you're on the right track. Nice.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, thank you, Denise. Thank you. You know, when you wear something that's just outside your normal, you're like, yeah, no, I don't know if this is gonna work. Thank you so much, Lauren, for sharing. Thank you. Thank you. Stacy, how are you doing today, Stacy?
I am all right.
Hey, there you are. Are you still at work?
Yes.
But you're not in the East Coast, are you?
Yes.
It is 8 p.m. in East. Okay, we're gonna move you because you were in the car going to work this morning, and now you're still at work.
Yeah, we just I'm assistant athletic director, so we have volleyball games and stuff. So I'm working one.
Oh my goodness. And multitasking, doing your portfolio in office hours. Okay, awesome. So let's focus on criteria 18. Is there anything specific you'd like me to focus or address?
Just the general feedback.
Awesome. Okay. So let's unpack criteria 18, everyone. So this is under the designer standard. And this criteria is truly about learning management systems, designing a digital learning environment. So it's really in its truest form. It's how are you designing, intentionally designing either a learning activity, a project, or an extension of your classroom or your professional development or your learning environment in a digital format. So typically, and I'm going to talk to you about alternatives, we're looking for like Google Classroom, Schoology, Canvas, Desire to Learn, all of those Microsoft Teams, all of those learning management systems. Though we do identify that educators don't necessarily have access to one of those. So alternatives that we have seen worked really nice. And the most important thing is thinking that all of your content, it comes from one platform, meaning we've seen HyperDocs, where it's a Google document, but the way the educators designed it, or even a Power or Google Slides, the way you've designed it, everything that your learners need to access for that project or the extension of your learning environment or your classroom or how physical learning environment, they can access in this one place. And so the three, aside from the platform that we want to know how you've arranged this, we're looking for three characteristics that are all coming from the same platform that make up a high quality learning management system or a digital learning environment. And this is research-based. These three characteristics are student to content. Sometimes it's called student to self. And that's where the student can access the content that they need for the project or the extension in this spot, all of the learning activities, lessons, resources. The second is student to student. So from this platform, students can interact with each other. And so if it's not a learning management system, maybe you have a Padlet and it's a class Padlet, or it's a Padlet you use during professional development. It's linked in this environment that you're calling your digital learning environment, and your learners know that that's how they interact with each other. And then the third piece is student to facilitator. And so this is how you interact with your learners, giving them feedback on projects or feedback on assignments, feedback on things that they're doing, and where they also know that they can reach out to you for assistance and support if they need to. Again, all bundled in this nice one-stop shop. Okay, so I'm going to dive in. In slides 3 through 8 of the artifact, your learners are 9th through 12th graders, excellent, high school students, and you show that you have designed a digital learning environment through Google Classroom. Technically, you could probably stop there in your contextualization, to be honest. You've given a great amount of information in that one sentence, just so you know. But you post all resources, materials, and assignments in Google Classroom to communicate with your students to inform for each lesson within a unit. You could include that one if you wanted. The students utilize Google Classroom to communicate with their teacher about questions and or comments regarding assignments, and you utilize Google Classroom to provide feedback to your students on their assignments. Your students work in groups with some of the weirdest thing ever. I'm talking,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, so it didn't pop any of you out.
Nope.
That is the weird, my apologies.
That's fine. I got kicked out this morning and had to get back in, so I thought it was me again.
No, let me share my, okay. So I just read through that and I highlighted and said, actually, this is perfect for your contextualization. You could probably put that in
Okay.
your map. Oh my gosh. That was so, I was like talking and then it
So
said,
just stop there.
yeah. Okay, perfect. So now let me jump into your artifact. So right away, I know this is high school Google Classroom, and you use this. It looks like you use this for all of the work. It's an extension of your classroom, and that's what I got.
Correct.
Awesome.
Yes.
Slides 3 through 8. There's your contextualization again. Very, very nice setup. You're telling the story right from the beginning. So here are all your Google Classroom classes, and the example that we're going to go into is that one. And okay, sample. So this is your student to self or student to content. So you've given us the list of all your lessons. I see some due dates, and then you unpacked one specifically. You went into nope, this is an announcement.
Yeah, that's just an announcement.
That's perfectly fine. Okay. So this is an example. This is one example of student to facilitator or facilitator to student. I might come back here, but I'm going to go on because you're going to show me right here. Okay, yeah. So here is student to content. So you show some additional, really nice how you unpack this, went into those learning activities. Okay, criteria.
And even the grading pieces in there too for the feedback. You know, it shows the students' work turned in at the top.
Awesome. You know what? I would pull this out and put it on another slide. I actually missed that.
Okay.
So pull it on another slide and just give some additional, if there's any comments in here from you, then that's another student to teacher. So a way, you know, that can go back and forth.
Okay.
Awesome. Really nice. Thank you. I didn't even notice that.
And then I dove into 2 different ones here for the
excellent.
way I give comments.
Yep. The way you give comments on the side here, typing. Yep. Very nice. Okay, through Google Classroom, you can provide feedback to students using rubrics. Again, nice. Students can also comment on their assignments to inform me. Very nice here. So we see that private comments. Student to, okay. I would say be careful. In the front, just so you know, on the front you said 3 through 8.
Okay.
Nope, that's okay. Because I was like, wait a second, it's not fully done. Okay, so this is more interaction. Student to student interactions take place. Okay, sure.
I went back and added a couple, so
That's okay.
I just
Perfectly
didn't
fine.
change my number.
No. Okay.
This is the part where I think I need a little bit more, just to show the student to student, and maybe I need to do something like we're not allowed to use Padlet, but I need to find a way of using something similar to that
well,
and implement.
Let me pull back because maybe not. In your, let's go up here. In your announcements, do students comment on the announcement? Nope. Okay.
Not typically.
In the assignments, are there any comments or when students?
Well, the students comment to me, but they don't see other students' work, so they're not allowed to comment on that. They have to do the sharing right here to share it with other students to get that student to student interaction.
Okay, so there's no discussions or anything where they're kind of sharing out thoughts with each other?
No. So I guess that's the piece that I need to put in there.
Yeah. So none of your classes, because you could even show multiple classes. You could say, you know, that in that particular class, we don't necessarily have student to student, but I do student to student in this class, in one of the other ones.
Okay. I've got that in one of my other ones that I can share where the students make announcements and do various things.
I would show that.
Okay.
I would show that. On the right track. Definitely on the right track. Nice. Perfect. Very nice. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
How would you do that with younger students or students who are in special education that don't write?
Great. So I have seen it. Some teachers in the younger grades use Seesaw as their learning management system. So the students aren't writing, but they're giving video responses or reflections to each other. And so they'll post up work and then video back to their peers, and the teacher does the same. In really young, I have seen where it's like kindergarten. I've seen examples where the parents are encouraged to respond with the younger kiddo. And so you'll see parents in the videos and kind of responding. Even in Google Classroom, I've seen that, where like parents are coming in. And so part of the assignment is for parents to work with the kindergartners and write something. And so it's like a shared kind of response. Same thing with students with special needs. Video responses or any way that it's that alternative, you can do that. That's
okay, so even like with Stacy's example, if the students are working together, if she got screenshots of the texting back and forth, hey, did you do this or did you do that, or that was great, would that be able to be done?
That's a little bit more difficult unless it's something that was straight from the platform. So it's really about everything's in the platform, or they
Got it.
springboard. Yes. So if it was a link to something else, maybe you use Google Classroom, but for responses or interactions, you use a different digital tool, but it's linked from your Google Classroom or linked from, then that would work 100%. If there's like a different tool that is accommodating more for that group of learners, but they know that they can access that link within their Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams or whatever you're using.
Like if I use a Padlet,
yes,
then as long as it's linked in my Google Classroom, then I show the link in the Google Classroom, and then that's my student-to-student interaction.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
It's the idea that your learners, no matter what age they are, even if the parents are assisting and supporting, they know they can get all the information and do everything they need to do right from this platform. Correct. Kalila, does that help?
100%. Thank you so much.
So very welcome. Thank you for asking. In my school, the littles, we use Seesaw. Yep. And respond with emojis. For littles, Scott, 100%. It would be emojis, especially if you're like, here are the 5 emojis we use, if I have a question about it, if, responding back 100%. I love that, Heidi. I agree. Book creator is a good way to have younger students communicate and leave feedback 100%. Now, though, do remember, if book creator either would have to be your learning management system or book creators linked from your learning management system, and that's where they go. Yes. Great support there. Love it. Thank you, Stacy. Leslie, how are you today?
Good.
Good. Looks like, you're going to bring us to the fun one, criteria 6.
Yes.
For equitable access. Love it. Do you have any specific questions or general feedback?
Yes, I do have specific questions. I'm not doing, so my group isn't the examples that we've seen, like special education or ML. So my contextualization is kind of long to try to explain who this group of students is. So I want to make that clear who they are. So yeah.
You'd want to know if it's evident that I right away can tell who that group is.
Yes, because there's also district specific language in here. So.
Okay. I love it. Thank you for bringing this. Okay. I'm going to get out my pen because it helps me remember all the components of this. So advocate for equitable access, 4 words. This is a really deep criteria. It's also the most commonly missed, and I like to put that right on the table because then hopefully ears perk up and say, "Ooh, okay, this is what I'm doing." So let's talk about equitable access first. You want to provide in your artifact the story. It's most of these artifacts are about the story of how you got there, how you met that criteria, and less about like just the end goal, but how you worked up to it. The story about how you identified, and I don't mean a story like a dissertation. It could be a couple sentences, but surfacing how you identified a group of learners or an individual learner, can be 1 learner, 2, 10, 20, 50, 100, a group of learners who has an unfair disadvantage to learning compared to their peers, based on gender identity, sexuality, learning disability, language deficiency. There's multiple factors. So there's an inequity for this group of learners, and you've identified it. That right now they're not at an equal playing field with their peers. And if they were provided access to educational technology that they do not currently have access to, or do not currently have sufficient access to, that if they were provided this tool, this resource, this support, it would put them in a more equal playing field with their peers. And then we're looking how all of that was advocated for. So you went to somebody who is a decision maker and said, I've identified there's this student or group of students. This is the inequity around them, based on this piece. I've researched, and here are some digital tools or resources that if they had access to more, or they had access to it all, they would be at a more equal playing field with their peers. What do you think? The decision maker could have said to you, Leslie, wonderful, sorry, we're not going to do it. That does not matter to us. What matters to us is that you actually brought it to them. So they could have said no. Now, let me talk about the technology. We're not asking you to advocate for, $300,000 worth of technology or $80,000. It could be something that's already purchased and in the school, and it's no additional purchase. It's just this group, for whatever reason, doesn't have any access or very, very limited access because of something that if they had that access, would be better. So again, we're not asking to advocate for big or new purchases. Okay, let's dive in. So students in Canyon School District who are identified as home and hospital students, got you. So the students with an unfair disadvantage or an inequity are students that are homeschooled, home care for various reasons, and or students who are in the hospital for various reasons. Okay. They do not have access to the reading intervention program in your district, Read 180, which includes personalized learning through an online student application. One obstacle is that the student's enrollment is in their home school, but they physically take classes. But they physically take classes at home, at the district office, or another portable on a high school campus. Okay.
Yes, because some of them are there for behavior reasons.
Yep. So the home is for multitude. Yep. Often these students and teachers are forgotten because they are not in a traditional classroom with administrators, counselors, and registry look at it. Okay. At the district level, the administrators over these classrooms are in the student support department and special education department with little communication between them. That happens. Your goal as a specialist that supports secondary literacy intervention is to get curriculum and technology access to teachers and students. Awesome. I'm going to honestly say you really only need that in your contextualization. In your artifact, you can put the rest of this, but really I identified through that sentence, ultimately, who the groups of learners are, the disadvantage, and Read 180 is that digital tool or resource that you wanted access to. Don't get rid of all this, but put it right in your artifact.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. So nope, I've got you. I've got you here. Completely understand. So district literacy coach, this message is the first time it was brought to your attention that there was a classroom for home and hospital. So you didn't even know this existed until this. Oh, that's lovely. And
I didn't know how much story to tell. Like Elisa was outside on district property, and a teacher that is now teaching that classroom was in a traditional classroom the year before and approached her and said, hey, can we get Read 180 out here? And that's how we found out about this classroom.
Oh.
So I don't know, do I need to put that in there?
It doesn't hurt. You don't have to. But it does give a lot of context of how it was brought up.
Okay.
Yep. Awesome. No. Okay. Got that.
So I'm the type of person who I
use the Sonic,
stood up from my office and walked across the hall to the SPED director, and then we went and found the other director. And so we keep notes in Asana for each other.
Yep. I just want to make sure I'm talking to you, so I totally get it. I want to make sure it's how we can get materials for students who are this includes service at home. Yep. Supposed to be create a middle school course and high school course that the teacher would be assigned at each high school. This course would not show up in the student schedule and it would still on. Okay. Okay. Follow up. I want to follow up conversation.
Oh, those slide numbers are wrong.
Don't worry. No, do not worry about it. Okay. I have not been able to get into this emails from the who has not been able to meet with our district. We need to change how the students are enrolled in order to make sure they get access to the technology.
So these are reminder emails of me trying to,
right.
and I include all of the administrators.
Yep. No, I see that. Okay. So I think I'm missing a couple. There's a little bit more to the story that I'm wondering. Okay. So so there's two things going on. It's the access to Read 180, but then you're also talking about a middle school and high school course. And
yes, it's the way that it's rostered. So they get access to the curriculum, the online student application through, like they have to have a class in Skyward, which is our rostering system, to get access to that course. So I wanted to create these courses so that the teachers and the students would all have access to the curriculum immediately. What I'm currently doing to get them access is I go in and I find out who their homeschool is. They have to be enrolled at least 1%. So they have to have a teacher somewhere in there. And I give them a license at their homeschool, but the teachers in home and hospital don't have access to any of the data, so they can't do like reteaching lessons. So I'm like halfway there, but I still haven't solved the problem.
Okay. No. And this is perfectly okay. I'm going to actually bring you back because it might be my misunderstanding how you're using the word course. Is it an actual course like we're thinking, or is it more because of in this platform you call it it's like a section that they have to be enrolled in?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I think there has to be a little bit more story here. 100%. So
okay.
What you're saying to me is the only way they can get access to Read 180. And I'm actually going to even back you up a little bit more. Access to Read 180 is to be enrolled in these sections or / courses in this platform.
Yes.
And they don't currently have that. I think that's some kind of part of the story that I think is missing in the first couple slides. I would even back up and say, because you mentioned Read 180, is it specifically, so I guess the bigger question is it Read 180 or is it because of their location, which is an inequity that 100% is, they don't have adequate access to any digital tools, or the digital tools really necessary, or is it really Read 180 specifically?
So it's Read 180 specifically, and there's an online student application that they use that is personalized right to their reading level.
Okay.
So the teacher can give the lessons, but they need access to that online component.
Yep. I'm familiar with, I love Read 180.
Oh, okay.
So I love it. So let's go back a little bit. Did Elisa and or Brett, did they identify that these students specifically are struggling in ELA, struggling with reading and writing, where maybe the students in school struggle less because they have access to Read 180 to help support them, and because these students don't, you're thinking this program would help to support and assist them?
Yes. And their reading scores are low. They have, missed schooling, and so they're behind a little bit. Yeah, definitely.
So give a little bit what we just talked about. Look through the recording when it goes up, because then you'll get reminded. Give a little bit of that story. That's really starting it. So this came to you, and then there was more there. That's why I was saying there's a little bit of gaps here.
Yeah.
After Elisa came to you, I'm assuming you did some investigation. You went in, you realized, oh my gosh, they don't have this. Probably talking with Brett and other teachers that were supporting them and saying they're really struggling. And you're like, they don't have access to Read 180. And then, of course, you found out that the only way they can get access is to create these sections, or there's no way to give them that access. So there's the disadvantages. You have to advocate for these sections. That's where you want to highlight. You're advocating for these sections to be built, because this is the only way they can get access to Read 180, which they need. And so that's where this communication's coming in. And then you're saying to us, I'm trying, I'm advocating, I don't have a decision at this point.
Yeah. So I guess I was worried about having too much text. You know, I was trying to find examples but that's okay to have more text in this one.
You can have more text because sometimes this is done on the fly. Like you said,
Yes.
I'm up, we talk in the hallway. So it's great that you have this email communication, because you are showing that it's really happening. Some additional context of kind of like, you know, a slide that says my investigation after Elisa came to you, and this is what I realized was happening. Yep.
Okay, great.
Definitely on the right track. I got it right away who the learners were. Just kind of expand the story, and you're really nicely on that right track.
Okay.
Thank
you so much.
You're welcome. And by the way, thank you. The students might not realize it now, but you're doing a very good service for them. So thank you for it.
Thank you.
Yep. Awesome.
Carmelita, I have something similar, but I only have email communication.
That's fine. You can show that. Perfectly.
Okay.
Yep. And fill in, kind of like I was telling Leslie, Kalila, fill in the story in between, the work that you were doing in between those email communications, even if it's text, even if it's written text.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if it was much work, because it was the kid was in the hospital, and it was like home instruction, and he needed a device. He needed a program for his eyesight, and I was asking, and they were like sending me other places, and it was only email communication.
That's perfectly fine. If there was anything that you did, how did, you know, like even showing the tool that you wanted to request, like you investigated, here are 4 things that I looked into, but I chose this one because this one, if there was a tool that you actually found, or if there was any investigation when you realized this, what was happening with this student, that you looked through all of the different digital resources that you had, and you realized, oh, somehow, just any of those stories of things that might have happened a little bit that you help drive those email communications.
Okay. Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Pamela, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I got a real weird question real quick.
Sure.
So speaking of what you were talking about before about equity, would I be allowed to do the affordable connectivity program? Because I have like contacted tons of people in the district and a bunch of other, I'm working the Lifelong Learning Center on Saturdays with adult ESOL. So I've been like really pushing them getting internet for only $30 a month. And I've given it to them in English and Spanish and Russian and like every different language. I've got the flyers, and I've been sending it out and handing it out. And I've been like pushing to get their internet for $30 a month. So I don't know if it even counts, but I've been like emailing people like crazy.
That sounds advocating for.
Is that okay? Something like that? Okay.
You just want to, it can be advocating for any learners, adult learners, community, anything whatsoever. It's really your voice as an educator saying, this is unfair. This is not right. They don't have what they need.
They don't know what's available. They don't know it. And so all my students can't get their online Lexia Core 5 program, their reading program for ESOL, because they don't have internet at home. The grandparents don't have internet. So I've been sending it home in Russian and all these different languages.
100%. So, well, I want to be careful. The only thing I want to be careful is, remember the part of advocating is going to a decision maker.
I did. I went to our district, to Stephanie at
Okay.
the district, and I emailed her about it, and then I started emailing other teachers about it and pushing that they would start advocating.
Yep. And again, remember decision makers. So the teachers are great, but as long as you had some kind of communication saying
In the district.
"Hey," yep. And like you were saying, one of the district leads, you know, even somebody who just recently became ISTE certified, who's your assistant superintendent. But
well, the act just came out. I mean, that they just passed, you know, $86 million.
Yes,
They
yes.
just passed the act. It just came into law. So it's a brand new law that nobody knew about. So
that's where I want to be careful, as if it's more of your job role that you're just making, because you want to be careful between criteria 15, which is effective communication with learner supporters, versus advocating for something
that they don't have. They don't have internet at home. Yeah.
True. But if it's just communicating that this is an offer for them, that's more 15. So just be careful with the ad. You want the advocating to be like you're trying to tell a decision maker at your school or community, we need to do this, and they have to make a decision. This sounds more like the decision's made and it's effective communication to the parents to let them know they have access to this. So just when you're thinking of that, if you don't have anything for 15, I would say what you're saying right now is a solid 15. Okay. But it could be advocating if you were advocating for, let's bring the parents in, or how can I talk to them at certain events? Can we change these events so that I'm always bringing this up, that they can get this? That could be part of, that could be 6.
Okay, cool.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because I also have the WhatsApp that I'm working with the Lifelong Learning Center, and I'm sending out information on WhatsApp to give them, you know, about that affordable connectivity program. So I'm trying to get them to get the community, their whole community.
Yeah, that'll be fun. But I think that's awesome. But yes, just kind of think about the advocating is what makes 6 strong.
Okay.
But it sounds, if you don't have 15, that sounds like a very strong criteria, or sorry, 15, which is effective communication.
Okay.
Because we don't assess it, but cultural competency is in criteria 15, and you translating that into different languages is spot on cultural competency.
Okay.
Yes. Awesome.
Cool.
I love that. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Good news.
Yeah, good news. Criteria 2. So under the learner standard, the first criteria, any specific questions or general feedback?
I just want to make sure I've got enough very specific documentation that I'm showing enough, you know, that it's, because I already presented the 7 part, you know, earlier, but the 2 part, I just went off of what I'd done with elevation. And so that was, of course, that was one of my goals for my learning goals. So
awesome. Well, I'm excited to jump in. So let me jump in. Oh, before I do that, let me unpack. So criteria 2 is learner, and criteria 2 is all about your professional learning goals. And so when you're thinking about this one, there is an S at the end of a learning goal. So please make sure there's at least 2 learning goals. Yep. And in the course, we're like really big on that, because educators were getting not met by just giving 1 for so long. We're like, we have to do this. So 2 goals, and the goals need to be very specifically about you growing as a learner, right? And so everybody, yes, we want our learners to also be impacted by that. And yes, we understand that. However, your learning goals and the action steps you're going to take to reach that goal should be all about you. I think it was Kalila, it was you at an office hour like 4 months ago or something, where we were talking about learning goals, and Kalila, you came out and you said, I bet you spent 40 hours doing all this research.
Oh yeah, when she was saying, oh, I'm just a teacher.
I'm just a teacher.
And I was like, there's no, right.
I loved it. But you nailed it when you said that during that office hour of, we as educators almost overlook all that extra stuff we do to enhance our professional practice. This is a time to put it in writing.
Yeah.
So don't miss the 7 hours of reading and the 10 hours of watching these videos. All of those are those action steps. So 1, make sure it's 2 learning goals. 2, make sure the goals are focused on your growth and not what you're going to do for your learners. And 3, make sure your action items really talk about, don't just say, took a course. Well, if I looked at the course and it's an 80-hour course like ISTE certification, you didn't just take a course, you just spent your life doing this. Explain that. And so that's what we're looking for in this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump in. The ESOL department at Greenville, South Carolina is transferring and upgrading their platform from Enrich to Elevation. Your goal as an ESOL teacher is to attend the trainings from Elevation, face online, complete Elevation training modules, compliance, ESOL strategy activities, scaffolding strategies to improve teaching practices. Another goal was to use the UDL framework and guidelines to promote understanding across different languages and new technology tools, online visuals, and online glossaries to support that. Okay. Let's jump into your artifact. Okay. So more than one professional learning goal. Your first professional learning goal includes learning new technology that supports the diverse needs of students. So that's the first thing that I want to know is, what exactly is your learning goal? Would you say your first professional learning goal is that? Would you say that's actually your learning goal?
Yeah.
Learning new technology that supports diverse needs of students.
Yeah, because we had no choice.
Yeah.
It was mandatory.
Yeah, no. So what I would do is make sure that that's articulated very clear, because they're going to look at that goal and then look at everything that you're doing. So I would highlight, underline, this is your first goal. Okay, your second goal is supporting the needs of students using. Okay, I just had that darn dictionary. I got to get rid of that. When you press the wrong thing on a Mac, the dictionary thing pops up. Okay. So I'm going to actually look at the second one with you and ask you. So this is, the goal is more of supporting the needs of your students. So now you're talking about what you're going to do for your students.
Well, I had to learn about it because I didn't know how UDL, what the framework was, and how those to support how to use each one of those. So I didn't know anything about UDL. I knew nothing about it. It was all new to me. So those specific steps, I followed those specific steps, and then I show how I implement that.
Okay, so on this first slide, I would actually suggest that you just put goal 1, state it, goal 2, state it, just on this first slide. And your second goal, turn it more what you were just saying now, to
it was brand new,
or better understand UDL frameworks to support my students' needs. And so you're going to learn more about, so lead with what you're going to learn. Like, I want to understand UDL deeper to be able to support student needs, or to use UDL framework in my learning instruction. So I would twist that a little bit so it starts with a U. So very nice. So the one, more technology for diverse needs. The second is using UDL. Awesome. Okay. So this is based on your first. You're going to attend elevation trainings. Okay. I'm not quite sure with this image.
Yeah, it's from our PD portal. It just shows, and that's why the arrows are there. It shows the specific trainings that I did attend, I got credit for. So you had to do things, you had to participate, collaborate, and create lesson plans and all that stuff. So
awesome. Make sure you say this is my PD portal, because I did not realize that. So
it says it at the top. You can see the PD says the name and
that is actually, yes. Yep. I would put it in your contextual.
Okay.
So yep. No, that's perfect. Because I was like, what is this? But I see it goes to something. Okay. Awesome. So that's goes to 10. So your goal, not your goal, one of your action steps.
Action step.
Yep. Make sure. Yep. So one of the other action steps, or to another way I'm going to reach my goal, is the Carolina Biological Science training. Okay. First, I attended the meetings, Google Slide, Zoom. Then I incorporate the Newzilla online science. Okay. Okay, so you attended these Support,
Yeah, the 18th and the 28th.
okay.
And I emailed all the teachers what the Google Slides were, that we had the training for the district with Katie Deloso. And then I started implementing that in the classroom because I go into the classrooms. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so this is more of something that you did.
An action step.
versus-
Yeah.
Well, is this something you did for teachers, or is this something you were
No, I
learning?
have to do it. I have to create the ILAPs like an IEP. They're the same accountability as an IEP. And your ILAP is the one that gives you what your classroom modifications are, whatever scaffolding, your strategies. Then it also provides those testing accommodations.
Yes.
And you have to say if this is the MAP testing, this is the COGAT testing. You have to name every test they're going to take for the entire year.
So, oh my gosh. So I'm going to actually back you up because this is something you did after you learned
After
something.
I learned it, I had to do, this is mandatory by state law.
100%. Let's go backwards though. Did you talk to us about how you, what did you do to learn this before you did this slide?
Yeah, I went through several trainings. Last year it was in the PD. When you look in the PD, yeah, you can
so
see it's in May and in June the 6th. So I
then
put arrows toward it.
I would unpack this. I'm going to go back to what I just unpacked with Kalila. You did a lot here, but you're only showing one screenshot. I would break this up into 2 or 3 more slides of all the, show us the different training, show a little bit of snapshots of the different learning you had to do, or even talk about the learning, because there was a lot of hours here and you actually only have one slide to tell us about it. And so, yeah, unpacking this, because this is more.
Well, that's the elevation, and it shows you what languages are at the school. And then I talked about how I had to do the ILAPs based on not just the but when they first come, if they're transferring from another county, they'll already have information from the WIDA screener, which I test them on, and the WIDA access test. I test them in like March and April. So I do a lot of testing.
Definitely. I just want to make sure, because this is something you did after you learned. So I'd even unpack the elevation training you went through. What were all the main components? How long was it? Did you get a certificate?
We're still learning how to do it because we're still doing the monitoring forms. We're doing that right now. We're still learning how to do that.
And you know what? Explain that. I think that's great. I mean, it looks like a really big.
It's been a nightmare because it's a brand new platform and everything keeps going wrong on it. So we're just like, you need to fix this.
I am so sorry, but that's good. Those are things I would share that more than the PD or kind of the things you were doing from the training. Share, yep, definitely share the training. So again, goal.
My action step to reach that.
Yep, you attended the TESOL. This is really nice. Very, very nice. Nice action there. Very nice. Your other action step. Okay, so this is from the conference, more learning you had. Now we get into your second goal, and here's some action steps for your second goal. So this is some reading that you did, and you going to CAST. Yep, cast.org. Another action is to promote understanding across. You sent emails. Okay, so we're going to back up. This is what you did from the learning. I want you to unpack more, and I'll keep going. I want you to unpack more about all the different research articles, all the different videos, everything you did to learn deeper about UDL. If you just went to CAST, that's perfectly fine. But I'm assuming, Pamela, because I know you now from office hours, you didn't just use that website. You kind of scoured to see what was out there. Because
that was in our Carolina TESOL training. The UDL was.
Yes.
She covered UDL in Carolina TESOL. A training that I attended, she covered UDL, and we collaborated using UDL strategies. So that was a whole other training within that. So
then unpack that training more, really go into all the components, because then these slides get to more of what it looks like. Oh no, this is more So this is where it's that the tipping point of what you did after you learned versus what you learned. So just
Well, nobody knew about this website. And what was happening was the kids weren't learning any academic words using the word-to-word dictionaries, bilingualdictionaries.com. None of the academic language was in there. So then we had to get these from New York. We had to download these bilingual dictionaries for like algebra, geometry, calculus, all this stuff. Because I'm teaching at the Bond Career Center for the satellite program with older kids who are doing Edgenuity. They're doing an online program to graduate. So now I'm having to giving them in Pashto and all these different languages with the high school kids, trying to get them to graduate. So I had to give them these bilingual dictionaries. Nobody knew about it. And so I've been trying to give them that resource, because I had to learn about the UDL, and then, okay, oh, glossaries, we need glossaries. Because they, it's not just a little word-to-word dictionary. They need the academic words.
100%. I think that's wonderful. Again, this is more of what you did after you learned. So I would unpack that course that you were talking about here.
Yeah, the Carolina TESOL.
Yep, unpack that course.
We covered.
No, this is amazing. And now you're starting to get, I'm not sure how.
Yeah, it's a key vocabulary that's under UDL. If you look at the specific, very specifically, it says key vocabulary, bilingual glossaries. Those things must be used when you're talking about, meeting that UDL 2.4. There are specific things within that.
No, 100%. And so this is great because it's showing what you did from the learning. I'm going to go back to.
I created that whole Common Sense for Education slide, and the training was for co-teaching. It was co-teaching and planning. So that I was showing how I was doing co-teaching and planning with the teachers based on that Carolina TESOL conference. Because that's what it said. If you look at it, the name of it is co-teaching and co-planning.
100%. So yep, the slides afterwards are more of what you did. So I'll just kind of.
I had to create stuff and plan with the teacher and collaborate. I had to do that. I take those steps to do what was required, what's mandatory, because we're doing co-teaching. You have to put that in elevation. You have to put what model that you're using, if you're push-in or if you're co-teaching. And so the students that I have are co-teaching models. So I had to show what I had to learn how to do from the Carolina TESOL, the co-teaching model, and how I implemented that co-teaching model.
100%. And that is fabulous. And that's kind of showing the learning that you had. So I'll just say one more time. And this is really nice because, you've showed or you're going to articulate the goals. The first goal, you have some great action steps of what you learned. I would just say expand a little bit more on the learning of that course, and then you're on the right track. So you'll want to do that for this. But
okay, perfect.
I can tell you have done a lot.
I've changed a lot, because from last year I wasn't even doing hardly any co-teaching, but then this year they're really pushing the co-teaching. So
I know they are, and you've got lots of languages in. So awesome job. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks.
Thank you. That's awesome. Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very well. Thank you very much.
Good.
You would like to bring us to the first criteria under the designer standard, criteria 16. Do you have any specific questions or general feedback?
I think just general feedback for this one.
Great. And I just want to make sure, because we flip-flopped this at one point. You're talking about accommodating learner differences, correct?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Because it used to be in the older alignment map content area standard. So I just wanted to make sure.
Right. Yep.
Perfectly off of what Pamela's was, because Pamela was talking about UDL. And so I'll unpack this. So general feedback, you said, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so let me unpack criteria 16. And if you were looking at Pamela's artifact, criteria 16 is about UDL. And so it's accommodating learner differences. So for 16 specifically, what the criteria is looking for is UDL principle of representation. And representation is about the idea that all learners, so this is not learning styles or that, but that all learners, all your learners, learn in different ways. And so they consume information in a multitude of ways. So instead of saying, Sarah, just going to bring this out, it has more hard of hearing, let's say, in certain aspects. So I'm going to do this for Sarah. UDL is really about doing it for all learners, even if they haven't been identified as a learner that needs this specific accommodation. So in your artifact, we're looking for one of your learning activities where you're showcasing to us how you're using multiple modalities of technology to represent the content. And so how you have text, but maybe you have some audio next to it. You might have text and then you have a video representation. Pamela was calling this out very specifically, and this is a big one. If there's key vocabulary, they're bolded, identified, defined, how you use contrasting colors when you're using digital mediums so that things are coming out at your learners so they understand the importance of certain information. And so again, it's going to be different for everybody, but multiple modalities. So how you're using audio and video, colors, text, screen readers, all of those different things. Now, do remember, this is under the designer standard. So we're looking for each of you to show us how you've designed learning. A lot of times educators will use a third-party platform and say, well, this screen reads, that's great, but that company designed that. We're looking for how are you intentional around how you're presenting information to your learners. Okay, so let's jump in. For this unit on writing, realistic fiction, so I know now 5th graders, it's a writing project. You wanted learners to be able to choose the resources they were using to better connect elements of the plot to their own writing. Throughout the writing process, they had opportunities to choose which resources that they accessed and how they accessed information. Okay, let's jump in. And so it looks for slides 3 and 4. Creating throughout the 5th grade, learners were involved in designing aspects of learning by creating definitions for the story elements. Okay. Pictures and graphics, audio. Okay. Directions. Choose at least 2 activities to help you practice challenge. Let's discover how to include the writers. Learners are able to access from writer resources. Okay. So I'm going to back up a little bit. I just want to make sure I'm just taking all of this in. Okay. Sure. So kind of pull out. Oh, okay. Hang on. Let me pop back around. Pictures and graphics as well as audio were included in the vocabulary review slides and the posters to accommodate. Okay. So on this, throughout the 50, hang on. I just want to take this in. So this was provided to them, like characters are people or animals, and then audio was included it was the key vocabulary that was in the audio, like characters, and then it's it again?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we have the audio there. So tell me about the poster here again.
So both of these were designed by students, not that that really matters with this particular standard, but
does, because this is about you designing the learning activity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was getting from it. So I was like, I think.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So they just need to be ones that I made instead of ones that the kids made.
It's actually more about the learning directions, activity, the scope of the learning, how you presented that to them. So that's what I thought. And then I was like, did I misread it? Okay, perfect. So like here you have, this is what you presented to the learners here for characters.
Yes.
And they had choice, voice and choice in it.
Right.
They could select their own. So this actually, the voice and choice is more of criteria 23. So criteria 23 is actually voice and choice. So for this, think about any lessons, any PowerPoint slides, any docs, or anything that you created in some platform where you created all the directions, the concepts, the learning, the vocabulary, where you accommodated. So where you were bolding, underlining, putting audio in for your learners.
Okay. So this would be more for criteria 23, which I have all linked into this same artifact anyway. So I would just kind of need to rearrange it.
Yeah. So criteria Yes, no. And please note that Sarah, that actually happens. We do have a lot of educators who flipped 17 or 16 and 23. So 23 is about choice and selection. 16 is about how you're designing with those multiple modalities.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, that
Okay.
does. I can just shift some things around. So that makes great sense.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate
Thank you.
that. Welcome. Kalila, criteria 4. I know it is 6 minutes after everyone. If you do have to go, I completely understand. We're going to continue recording, but we're going to finish up with Kalila and Heidi. So thank you.
I am here.
Hi, Kalila. How are you?
Hello, I'm a bit exhausted, but I'm here.
I'm telling you, I am with you. I'm glad tomorrow's Friday, but this was the longest week in my life for some reason. This was a long week. Thank you for staying on. Criteria 4, which is the last criteria under the learner standard. Do you have any specific questions or general feedback?
General feedback.
Okay, definitely. So let me unpack criteria 4. So the last criteria under the learner standard. This criteria is all about how you keep current with research. And then when research comes to you and you see, this is actually good, it's showing that this is effective and changes or engages student learning or professional development, that you change your practice based on that research. And so it's really updating your practice based on research coming out. So there's 3 main things, and I'm going to use these words very intentional, that we want to see in your artifact. 1, we want to know the actual peer evaluated research that you read or you were reading. And this research is not a blog, and it's not necessarily a book unless the whole book is a book on the research. It's really about those research papers that have studies part of them. So you can just do the title and the authors. Some educators will put the DOI number just so that we know that it is a published piece of research. And so that's the first thing we're looking for, was what was the research. Second, or first, depending on how you want to put it in the story, you want to at least tell us, what did you do in your practice before you read this research? And I said that word specifically, tell us. If you can show us, meaning you have evidence from before, great, we'd love to see it. But if you don't have the before, because you already made that change, you can tell us what you did before. And then you want to show us the change in your practice, how your practice has changed based on that research. So the research, tell us and or show us what your practice was before that research or lesson or learning activity PD. And then you want to show us what your practice is now. Excuse me, the changes that you've made based on that research. Okay, let's jump in. Report changes made. So before I flipped my classroom, my teaching was pretty traditional. We would watch a video together, reviewed a slide deck, would hand out worksheets that were differentiated to each student. Students would then be divided into leveled groups. They wish to sit in groups with a paraprofessional leading each group. You would circle the room to assist where needed or collect data. You'd provide a time that they should be finished and when we'd review as a class, and no homework would be given. Now you create lessons with videos that students go through and answer questions at home with their family members. They answer the questions to the best of their ability. They record their answers in Edpuzzle. When they arrive in school, we dive into applying what they've learned in class.
Is that contextualization too long?
Nope, because it's in your artifact. Not at all. If it was,
okay.
So if you're looking to put this in your alignment map, I would summarize that and just say, you could identify, here's the, so I read some research on flipped classroom. I had never done flipped classroom before, and now my classroom is flipped. Something like that. It can be short and sweet. Then when we get in reading this is perfect right here. Nope. In the artifact, that works great. So flipped classroom research, this peer-reviewed article. Nice. So we know it is peer reviewed. We can see the volume and the issue. So right away, what it is and what it's not, elements of the flipped classroom, technology needed. Nice research. Thank you very much. Some additional research or continuation of that research, role of the teacher, role of the student. This is the model I chose to follow, traditional flipped classroom model. Nice. Okay, flipped classroom model. So this is some additional part of that research. Okay, the way you taught your class prior was very traditional lecture. Okay. And now, and look at me now. With Edpuzzle, I select a video that I would like the students to review, then pinpoint where I would like the video to stop. I write in a question for them to answer, but the just timestamps the questions are put in. Okay. Really, really nice. You've shown the research. You actually showed a little bit of what you did, but you talked even a little bit what you did before. And now you're talking now you're showing us what you did afterwards, kind of having the video and the questions. I would say the only piece that I would love to see in here, because it's actually a big component of flipped classroom, is then a little bit of what that, when they come back after they've watched the video and answer the questions, how do you structure those discussions? If you have anything visual to show, like, these are my discussions now and how they've enhanced. I would say that's that only piece, because it's portion of flipped. But what you've shown is definitely on the right track for this. So I'm going to stop there.
Okay, so you said, so after this is done, like when they come back into the classroom, whatever I show, that's what you want to see.
Yes, just a little bit now, because
Okay.
you see the video. How does your instruction look different? Because it does, because you were showing this here, you were teaching, giving them all the information. How do you switch that now? What do you do when they come back after watching those videos? Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. Perfect.
And that would be a nice, strong artifact. Nice.
And all I need to do is add one other slide, right?
Yep, that or two. It depends on how much.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yep. One additional piece, which is, this is what we do in the actual classroom after they've watched the video and answered the questions. This is how I change that learning experience. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Very
Thank
nice.
you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Last but definitely not least, Heidi. How are you doing today, Heidi?
I'm great. I hope you are now. The last one.
No, I am great anytime that I can help all of you wonderful people working on your portfolios, because we only grow and learn by sharing. So thank you. And of course, yes, because then I'm going to go to bed very soon. But
That's right.
Criteria 14. So you are under the collaborator standard. It's one of the criteria that I love. Could I also use this for 13? Okay. I
wanted a little question down there to see if, because this is very short, I think. So just go through it and tell me what you think.
Yeah, it can be. Other than the question at the bottom for co-learning, anything else, or just general feedback?
Just the general feedback in the question.
Excellent. Okay, so let me unpack 14. 14 can be shown in a shorter. So do not, nobody stress if you're like, there's only like 2 or 3 slides for 14 and it seems like I'm not doing enough. So let me talk about what the evaluation team is looking for. So this is virtual connections with experts for your learners. So one, we're looking for you to talk to us about what was the learning experience that triggered bringing in an expert voice. What were you doing? Was it a book you were reading? Was it a specific topic? Social studies, science, you were talking about space. So you thought, hey, let's bring in some astronauts. So you want to show and tee up what the learning experience was for your learners. And then you want to, in some way, showcase that this was a virtual expert. And so this is not bringing experts in face-to-face. It's really bringing them in virtually. Now, there's some flexibility in that, and I can talk about that towards the end, but maybe you didn't get pictures when they came in virtually or screenshots, but if you showed email communication, okay, we're going to meet at this day and this time, here's the Zoom link, thank you so much, my teachers, my students are looking forward to seeing you. And so we want to talk about, you want to give us a little guidance that this actual expert came in. Now, let's say that you haven't done it and it's planned for a little bit later and your portfolio comes in sooner. As long as you're showing that you have had communication to set up this virtual meeting with this expert, that would be sufficient enough, showing your learning experience and that you're going to bring in this expert. If it is, so the expert is really somebody who brings in an additional voice or an additional layer and enhancement that's beyond what you can do or anybody in your learner's immediate ecosphere. And so it's really outside your school. It's really outside that area. If it's a teacher down the hall, they could be an expert. It would have to, if they had a specific experience happen to them, then they could be an expert, even if they're in the same school. But you want to be very careful. You want to kind of open the world out. I just want to identify students here. Students are experts if they have a unique voice. So bringing in students from other countries, other states where different things. So if you're talking in a social studies type of place, and maybe you're bringing in students from Utah or Nevada, which is different than where in New York where I am, because their landscape would be different, time zones, different things like that. Then the students are experts. And so you really want to think about these experts or additional voices. Okay, let's jump in. You're an assistant professor who teaches special education methods courses to pre-service teachers. You work with Beth Poss of Lesson Picks to get free university accounts for your special education pre-service teachers. You also requested that she provide training via Zoom to teach our pre-service teachers and you how to use Lesson Picks. See where you're bringing in 13 or where you're questioning 13. You've included emails and screenshots as evidence of your communication and from the Zoom meeting. Okay, and I think I can help you with 13 as well. So training is definitely included as an expert. This was an expert. You're identifying Heidi, not an expert in this whatsoever. So I brought in the expert voice for that. Okay. Lesson picks, email sent, any location on their laptop. Okay, and here she is coming in, showing how that's going to be used. And so the learning activity was special education educators, pre-service educators, learning about various tools that are available for them for instructional purposes. Is that correct? Okay, just want to make sure that
That's correct.
Expert showing. I'm sorry. No, I'm totally with that. Okay. 13, I would what I'm going to say is 13 is more about you as the facilitator with your learners, your pre-service candidates, where you are all learning something new together. And so you're still their main facilitator. Unfortunately, in this realm, this person was the facilitator. You were learning alongside your learners, but not necessarily co-learning because you weren't leading the learning.
Gotcha.
Yes. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes, I have other ideas for 13, but it just struck me that this might work to put it together if I added some stuff.
And it was an earlier one that was very similar where it was co-learning. It was like Merge Cube and they were co-learning. This is more about you're still the facilitator. Like your learners look to you as the knowing all, but you're saying, listen, I don't know all. Let's learn this together. And they watch you fail forward and you watch them fail forward. It's kind of that transparency and being vulnerable. Yes. But okay. 14, this is on the right track. For 14.
Okay, so I don't need to add anything to it. That's okay. All right, that's good.
Awesome. You gave, especially in your role, because higher ed EPP programs, it's really about making that awareness, and that was in that learning context for that specific course that you're delivering. And then the expert came in to train. So
okay, thank you.
Welcome. Nicely done. Thank you all. This was great. I learn from each one of you every time I do this. I know eventually I'm going to have to stop doing office. My team and leadership has very nicely let me hold on, but I absolutely love doing office hours. I just learned so much from each of you. So thank you. Thank you for sharing and being vulnerable. Appreciate it.
Make sure you take some chicken soup. You have got a cold.
Can you tell? You can tell. Like my voice is. That's why I keep drinking. I'm like, it's so scratchy. Oh,
chicken soup. Chick-fil-A chicken soup.
I know. Oh, I'm gonna get some, and I need to wrap up and then just go to sleep for a week. That's what I need. Thank you, Pamela. You can tell. I'm like, oh, I can't do this anymore.
Bad.
I know. Thank you all so much. A recording will be up soon, and have a wonderful evening or morning or afternoon. Thanks. Oh, Tanya, thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.